Hello, everyone. It's 40 minutes after 9 o'clock on this Tuesday. Hope everyone is well. Wave meteorologist Brian Good. Appreciate you guys joining me here on the blog today as we are going to cover the tropical setup that is in place now. What does that mean as it evolves into a different shape and really patterned form as we into the weekend, into next week? I'll cover all that here in just a few moments. Thanks for being patient with me. I was feeling our favorite weather pun, feeling under the weather the past couple of days, so I'm getting back on track. So I apologize if I still seem like I'm a little foggy at times. I'm catching up slowly but surely. But I did hear the rain fall at the house, so I'm sure that some of you got a decent amount as of late, and that is important, of course, to try to stay out of the drought status, which keeps trying to sneak up on us every time we get into a dry pattern, as it would this time of the year. But it's not all bad news. I still don't think it's a huge issue right now to worry about. More on that in the coming moments. All right, let's get you outside. It's mostly cloudy sky down into Bardstown at the moment, and a lot of that is just because of the high-level clouds we have from last night, some of the downpours, some fog we had in the area, all that kind of combined together to allow for much more of a partly cloudy to hazy start to the sky for the day today, but still able to warm up easily through the 80s with no problem as you venture out. All right, so the game plan here today is to look at, first off, where the rain fell, and the heaviest of the rain at that, across wave country. You can certainly tell that it was right there across Breckenridge County and Grayson County. Saw some pockets of heavier rain in the metro, and then a little bit more in the southeast section of our counties. But there were a lot of you that were in the drier patches. Marion County, parts of Spencer County, and certainly in our Indiana counties got missed. Didn't see much in the way of those heavier downpours. Even within Louisville, it was really the southern part of the county that picked up the majority of the heavier amounts, led to the flash flood warning briefly that was out. And I think I'm at 3/4 of an inch, I believe, is what I picked up at my house. It was a good slug of rainfall that came through. A little bit of a lightning and thunder added into the mix as well. But nothing severe, and that's good. And again, this will help us in the drought status as we evolve through the summer season. All right, this morning, a lot of high clouds over us, flying overhead. Again, this adds to much more of a hazy-looking sky, but don't worry about the green. That's not radar. This is some moisture across the Tennessee and Kentucky border. That is going to be staying mainly in across areas of the Tennessee Valley. As we into this afternoon, though, it wouldn't surprise me. There could be a few downpours that will try to form right on the edge of this boundary this afternoon. Better potential looks to be over Kentucky versus, say, Indiana. But it looks to be much more on the sparse side. So rain chances just are not very high for the setup, but the same idea is at play. This is tropical moisture. So if you get one or two that form, you are going to end up with some decent totals in a short amount of time. Just won't be for everyone, just for a few spots. As we broaden out the view, here is Futurecast showing the trend this afternoon. A lot of that red you see is the storm fuel. There's plenty of that just because of the amount of moisture in the air, some hints of sunshine, even hazy sunshine adds to a destabilization of an atmosphere. So you can see that we've got that. And they're very random. You just need to be focused more closer to the front to get them to be organized. And that's where you get more clusters in Kentucky and Tennessee and North Carolina. There is actually a boundary there. But there's also a boundary up to the north of us. It's trying to curl around through the Great Lakes. It's a little bit of a jet, if you will, that is diving down from Lake Michigan all the way into northern Indiana and Ohio. As it's doing so, it's trying to grab whatever moisture it can for its system. The one to the south trying to do the same thing. What happens? That puts us into a very awkward squeeze play here in the middle, where we end up with storms getting pulled one way, one pulling the other. We end up, in many cases, dry in that scenario when they split like that. So we'll see what happens, but these two are fighting it out north and south over the next couple of days and who's going to get the most of the thunderstorm action. So we'll see how that plays out on the radar trends, but that's the upper air pattern that keeps evolving. We'll get into tonight. We quiet things down. We'll get into tomorrow. The battle resumes with the northern piece trying to feed in some thunderstorms and steal them away. Even tries to push a couple of boundaries closer to I-64 later in the day on Wednesday. Otherwise, showers and storms continue to the south. Again, the flow overall between the two of these working together is going to be a little more of a southwest flow to east flow in Kentucky. And I would say a northwest to east or southeast flow into Indiana. That looks to be the two storm motions. Hopefully this will move fast enough to where we don't have to worry about flash flooding threats every single day because they are moving. But if they end up repeating themselves too much, then we may end up with that threat, especially the southern piece here will move slower than the northern part will. But yeah, it's a chance of rain just about every day. It's not going to rain every day. There's a lot of dry time you see here on these models, and that's an important thing to note. When you're in the dry time, well into the 80s, perhaps even touching 90, Otherwise, you'll be in the 80s and muggy, and occasional showers, thunderstorms are rolling through. Now, once we get into the end of the week, things begin to change for us. And the best way I'm going to describe that is just showing you moisture levels. All right, we've got the setup now where we've got the high to the east, Bermuda high we've talked about for a while, allowing for all that tropical moisture to get funneled into the southeast United States, into the Ohio Valley. All right, now we're seeing the trough that was up here to the north. It basically just gets squashed out completely off the map, allowing for a bit of a tilt, if you will, to the overall trough. What happens is we end up with still a large high pressure here in the Atlantic, but your flow, your tropical flow, gets a little more angled into the areas of the Midwest, especially, and your wind flow ramps up from a northwest direction. So you begin to tilt the direction of the storms coming from. Most of our storms today, southwest, moving east, or in some cases, north into the east. And this setup for next week, it's mainly a northwest flow. What does all that mean? That means tracking of showers and storms, MCSs, complexes of storms, even maybe an additional derecho type of setup with a high wind event could possibly develop in that scenario. Too early to talk more specifics. This is the first week of August. This is still July, so I can't go into too much detail. All I can tell you is the upper air pattern. If all the pieces do slide over the way they think they look to be, that will be our threat for next week. So going from heavy rain and occasional thunderstorms this week, flipping to a little more of an off and on severe weather potential for next week. Something we've been in several times this season. But we've lucked out on the severe wind part. We really haven't seen as much wild thunderstorm action from that as other areas to the Midwest have. All right. Does that all make sense? Probably not. I think I just rambled big time. Good morning to Adam and Ashley. Ashley, is there any severe with any of this? You would get isolated severe, but as far as organized severe with this week's round, it's all mainly tropical we're talking about. It's going to be very isolated. Next week, if we do end up in that MCS type of territory, it would be straight line winds more than anything. That's a whole other ball game, and we can't talk about it yet because it's too far out. I'm just trying to give you guys a pretty long range outlook of the way it's looking right now. Very slow. I mean, these weather patterns like this in the summer, they don't change rapidly like we have in spring and the fall, or even the winter. It's very slow to change out of one aspect to another. So we only see these, when we see a bigger change in 2 weeks out, that really is going to take a whole week to have that happen, right? So in general, this week is going to be very sluggish, not a lot of dramatic change this week. Next week, it will be hotter, but stormier. That's the game plan. Do I see a long weather pattern yet that's going to take over? Of nothing but dry weather for days on end and no thunderstorm chance. No, I do not see that. So that's good on the drought side for sure. I do think it's going to remain active for the rest of the month into early September. What was your question there, Adam? Do we see any more 100-degree temps this summer? Possibly. We hit 99 August 28th last year. So we've been close to 100 for about a week solid in October. That was 2019 when that happened. So never say never. It can certainly happen, even if it doesn't seem like it's going to hit you. In my opinion, until you get past the first week of October, you are at risk to get really, really intense heat. And the drought plays a big role there. If you're dry, it's almost likely, if not a guarantee, you're going to see something like that. But if you've been relatively wet and stormy, it's a little tougher to get to that level. And I am still seeing some correlations here, guys, between a few patterns that were in the 2000s that are matching up to this season. I'm trying to get analogs to work on the winter outlook. There are a couple of similarities, very similar patterns, in fact, that have been developing across the globe that I'm seeing now that's resulted in, I'll give you this bit of nugget because you're the loyal blog people, right? I know you guys are not going to put this on social media. You're gonna like, hey, we'll see what Brian's got to say later. But they really hit December. And that's about all I'll say on that point for now until I get some more maps to back up my argument. Yeah, it could be a fun, wild ride. Okay, I'm going to end it there for now as I need to sit back down and get ready for the midday show. But thanks for your patience, guys. Appreciate you watching as always. Means a lot. And keep those rain totals coming. Send them in. Even if we're not on, send them into the chat so everybody else can see them, because everyone stays active on the chat even when it's not on air. The chat's still there on Facebook and social media, so feel free to chime in at any time. And we'll see what happens with these downpours the next few weeks, and we'll keep it on that stormier pattern for next week. Again, very slow changes, so we have plenty of time to kind of go through all this, which is certainly some good news. All right, thanks as always. Appreciate you all. I'll see you on the flip side.